Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner, and you're on stage 4 of Tour of the Basque Country, Pays Vasco. Spectacular day of racing, and guys need to be fired. I mean, everywhere. I'd fire riders, I'd fire directors, I'd fire your commentators watching this race if you were watching the same show I was. Nobody knows how to race their bike. This stage was absolutely ridiculous when it came to the tactics of teams being played out on today's stage. Now, let's get right into the excitement because it's a 190K stage. They're going up the famous Yaskibo, which is there in San Sebastian area. They use it on the Classica San Sebastian, and they use it from time to time here at the Basque Country. It's a spectacular climb. They would start setting some effort up that climb with Bahrain victorious. Those guys would blow up fast. Then the pace would be a little more steady and easy over the climb. Once you go down the descent, it was there with UAE Team Emirates, Tadej Pogacar's team, setting the pace into the last climb of the stage. This is a hard climb, 4 kilometers, over 10% in average, and the exciting part of the race would start now. It's Landa, Bahrain victorious, Mikel Landa, who's attacking. In the back, he's furious because it's Chavez chasing him, pulling Primos Roglic first, and then later pulling him again as Landa keeps looking back each time, seeing Chavez on the front from Bike Exchange, pulling all of the favorites on the top 10 general classification, including the 2 legends, Tadej Pogacar and Primos Roglic. Landa, you see him shaking his head, he's upset. Finally, they bring everything back together. Landa goes again, and he gets up with Brandon McNulty, and they get a gap. They had Chavez. Chavez blew. Possibly Chavez you wouldn't have blown if you weren't back there pulling the whole field all the way up the first K of the climb for absolutely no reason. That's not your job to bring back Landa. You got to jump away clean and get up there and go across the gap. You don't pull the favorites, Tadej Pogacar and Primos Roglic. We've had that talk many times on the Butterfly Effect. Now, Jonas Vingegaard from Jumbo Visma does an amazing job of setting tempo for Primos Roglic. We talked about it yesterday on the Butterfly Effect. I told you guys, he has, Primos Roglic, the race leader at Tour of the Basque Country, has to have at least one teammate with him going over the top of this climb. Jonas does an amazing job to close the gap to Brandon McNulty. McNulty, the American kid riding for UAE Team Emirates, he has his team leader, Tadej Pogacar, that's sitting second on general classification. McNulty's in a prime position. He can put a ton of pressure so that back there in the back of the group with Primos Roglic, Tadej Pogacar can get a free ride. Now, I said Jumbo Visma were great. I was watching it, and at the top of the climb, the way Jonas Vingegaard closed the gap right at the very top to Brandon McNulty was absolutely magical and textbook racing. The tactic there, textbook. He was perfect, 100%. I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm like, wow. They figured it out. Jumbo Visma have got their act together. They figured it out. They went over the top. They closed the gap on Brandon McNulty so that the time trial specialist couldn't just drill it down the descent without race leader Primos Roglic sitting on his wheel. I was super impressed, cheering how beautiful the tactic was. Then, folks, we go over the climb, okay? Now the tactics keep coming. It's up there, Pello Bilbao that jumps. He has another rider go with him, and then Brandon McNulty jumps, and Jonas Vingegaard breaks the number 1 rule. The number 1 rule. You do not leave your race leader ever. You never leave him isolated. They had Tobias Foss that got dropped with about 600 meters to go before the top of the climb, so you know they have one more Jumbo Visma rider back there, but he's just off the main group. When Jonas jumps, he leaves Primos Roglic isolated. Now, there is an exception. Just before I, before E, except after C, there's always an exception to the rule. The exception to the number 1 rule in the book would be Jonas could jump if he was race leader up there in the front group. He's not race leader. Brandon McNulty is. Can Jonas beat Brandon McNulty? Probably not. Has he shown that he's outclimbed him? No. Are they both good climbers? Yes. Could something change? Always possible in bike racing. but you had the race leader with Primos Roglic, and instead Jonas jumps into the group and leaves his race leader isolated. The only reason Primos Roglic is not completely out of this race is because of the other knuckleheads back there chasing too. EF Education's chasing with Hugh Carthy for zero reason when it's Primos Roglic and Jumbo Visma's job to chase. What should have happened? Jumbo Visma should have called Jonas back to the group because he should have never been there in the first place. What Jonas needed to do was just control the pace all the way from the top of the climb all the way to the finish. When they start attacking, slowly pull it back with Primos Roglic on your wheel. You still have Tobias Foss chasing from the back. So if you slow that group down just a little bit, they have 3 Jumbo Visma riders to control that group all the way to the line. We should have been looking at this stage there with Primos Roglic still in the race leader's jersey at the end of this stage. Instead, it's a catastrophic mess up. The announcer's talking about what a great move. I'm watching it on GCN, Race Pass, right? I paid for this subscription. You think they could get some announcers on there that actually know how to call a bike race. Jonas is in the front group, and they're talking about how great of a move it is for Primos Roglic to give up the jersey on today's stage. Are you kidding me? They're like, they won't have to ride. They haven't had to ride all week, guys. What makes you think they're going to have to ride on tomorrow's stage? Okay, let's get back up to the racing. Group of 6 up front. Jonas Vingegaard is sitting on. He's at least doing that intelligent, even though he should have never been there in the first place. The other 5 guys are working somewhat well together. Brandon McNulty's doing probably the bulk of the work. Personally, I thought he should have done a little bit more, but he did enough, and the other guys were willing to ride with him, that they're going to come to the line and duke it out for the win. Before that, though, let's get back to the back group because there's some knuckleheads back there, too. I told you it was EF Education, Hugh Carthy chasing. Later, it's going to be Ineos Grenadiers on the front with either Adam Yates or Carapaz or both. I wasn't certain which one it was. They're back there chasing. What are they chasing for? Let Primos Roglic lose even more time and make him go on the attack. Jumbo Visma are certainly going to lose the jersey on today's stage, and you're going to get rid of Primos Roglic. And now in the later stages, he's going to have to attack on that last mountain stage if he wants to win. That'll allow Adam Yates to sit on his wheel all the way to the line and win stage 6 because Adam Yates is climbing that good. Okay, Tadej Pogacar will probably win, but at least gives Adam Yates a chance to win the last stage. Instead, they're back there chasing and keeping the gap close instead of just letting it blow up back there. Up front in the group, they're coming to the line, and it's 1.5 or just a little bit less to go when Bookman attacks. The Hansgrohe rider jumps. Brandon McNulty pulls him back. He'll throw in one more dig, and then Chavez will throw in a masterful attack. This, I certainly didn't want to see him win after I saw the knucklehead move he did, pulling the whole group on the climb. But he's got a shot at winning. It looks like he's going to win it until it's Bookman that goes again with about 300 meters. As they go into the chicane there, it's Ion Izagirre from Astana sitting second wheel, swings off of Bookman's wheel, and it's a bike throw to the line between Ion Izagirre, Astana, and Pello Bilbao, Bahrain Victorious, as Astana takes their second win again at this year's Tour of the Basque Country. Fantastic win from Ion Izagirre, who raced it perfectly. Astana's tactics throughout this week of racing has been fabulous, and they deserved another big win. Now, let's go back to about 4 or 5K from the finish when Tobias Foss is back in the group with his leader, Primos Roglic, and they can see the race leader losing his jersey. Tobias is back there last in the group. Instead of on the front pulling like a madman as hard as he can trying to save this yellow jersey, he's back there adjusting his jersey. Guys, I literally watched him in the back sit up, straighten his back up, and this is 4 or 5K to go before the finish, and he's straightening his back up in last place, and he's adjusting his jersey like this, because there's nothing important happening today. You don't need to get on the front and ride. I mean, you got Primos Roglic, the best bike racer that we have seen in the last 3 years that's nonstop winning everywhere except the Tour de France. But a fabulous rider and going to be a legend and could easily keep this jersey today if the guys just rode intelligently. Instead, he's back there fixing his jersey, Justin. Finally, with about 3-4 4K to go, he jumps on the front and he starts rotating through with a bunch of the other guys. At one point in time, Tobias is on the front and Primos Roglic is swinging off his wheel because he wants to see what's happening in the back there or something. I don't know what he's doing. At that point in time, when you're race leader and you're losing your jersey, you glue yourself to your teammate's wheel and you drive that kid as hard as you can, and then you start pulling yourself so that you can start saving some time. Oh, and by the way, pull Jonas out of the break and bring him back and have him start pulling even if it's 1K to go. How was that kid going to walk away with the race leader's jersey? All right, Primos Roglic loses the jersey by 23 seconds to Brandon McNulty. I'm sitting there listening to the announcers on GCN talking about, oh, this works out great for them. They can just take it back on the last stage. Okay, let's pretend it's the same time right now, and we'll go to the stage 6, the last stage. The big thing nobody's calculating, stage 6 is only 70 miles long. Brandon McNulty is a fabulous rider, up and coming. We do not know exactly where his legs are. They could come even better than what we're watching right now, but he is certainly fabulous. One mistake you don't want to make on a 70-mile stage, your form to drop, guys, is not as fantastic if you're the number one rider in the world as what it is at 100, 110, 120, 130 miles into the race. Your legs are better. Can Primos Roglic win on this last stage? It wouldn't surprise me. 23 seconds is not a huge amount of time, but it's a 70-mile stage. And now remember, Primos Roglic has to go from the bottom or the middle of the last climb on stage 6, when before all he had to do is cover and sit on Tadej Pogacar's wheel. Now he has to attack with Tadej Pogacar. Do I need to explain how good Tadej Pogacar is to everybody? He is a fabulous rider. If Primos Roglic has to go from the bottom with Tadej sitting on, Tadej can jump him right near the top, get that gap, and now Tadej Pogacar takes the race win from Primos Roglic and his teammate Brandon McNulty. I would not be surprised if Brandon McNulty keeps this jersey through Tour of the Basque Country and wins this overall classification. It wouldn't surprise me if Primos Roglic could possibly get this jersey back, and it wouldn't surprise me if Tadej Pogacar just pimps everybody and takes the win here at the Basque Country on stage 6. It's going to be an exciting stage coming up in 2 days. Don't miss that. This is a beautiful race, and it's fun and exciting. I'd fire the Jumbo Visma director that's back there in the car unless he's the same guy that hired Primos Roglic. If he was, I'd leave him as a scout and fire him as a director. The young rider, Jonas Vingegaard, you can't fire him. He's too young and doesn't know, but somebody needs to teach him something. Hopefully he's watching the butterfly effect. Primos Roglic, you can't fire him because his legs pedal so good. Even if he doesn't know what's happening in the race, he's still winning bike races anyway, so you got to keep him. The GCN announcers, you could easily fire those guys. They don't know what they're talking about on this particular stage of racing. This was a beautiful day at the Basque Country, but it was filled with knuckleheads all over the place. You take your pick on which one's biggest. Right now, I'm going with the directors at Jumbo Visma. Hope you guys like the take on the butterfly effect, and I'll see you guys real soon. Don't miss stage 6. It's going to be fantastic.